Am I the a-hole for refusing to donate my kidney to my estranged sister, even though I'm the only match, after she kept my biological daughter from me for years? Here's a backstory. I, 29 female, was a reckless teenager, got pregnant at 17, and was terrified. My parents were conservative, and my sister Alice, then 27, convinced me to let her and her infertile husband adopt my baby to keep it within the family. She made me promise not to tell anyone the child was biologically mine and to always act as the aunt. However, things spiraled out of control. They moved away when my daughter Emily was just 2, and I was only allowed minimal contact. They changed her last name, and I found out they told Emily that her biological mom had died in a tragic accident. I confronted Alice, and she said it was for the best and cut contact completely. Fast forward to last year, Emily, now 12, discovered the truth. She reached out to me, angry and confused. I tried explaining, but she's resentful towards both me and Alice. Now, Alice has severe kidney issues and needs a transplant. I'm the only match in the family. She has apologized for everything and begged me to reconsider, stating it's just not for her, but so Emily doesn't lose a mother. I'm torn. Alice's friends and our extended family have been bombarding me with messages, some understanding, some extremely hateful. Emily is conflicted and has expressed she doesn't want her mother to die, but also feels a deep-seated anger. My husband thinks I should donate to be the bigger person, but my best friend says Alice made her bed and now has to lie in it. Am I the a-hole for considering not donating my kidney after everything that's happened? Now for the top comments. Don't forget, you saying yes doesn't mean that you will be whipped into surgery tomorrow. There is an extended period of testing and counseling, which needs to be undertaken before you would get anywhere near that stage. To get the family and friends off your back, say you will consider it, but tell the medical teams that you're being guilt-tripped by the family and you don't want to do it. And they will tell the family that you aren't suitable to be a donor for other reasons. You won't be the first bullied and unwilling potential familial donor they will have seen, and you won't be the last. And depending on your age, don't forget that this is a major life-changing surgery with a lengthy recovering period. If you can't work, who is going to cover your living expenses? If there is a history of kidney disease in the close family, what would happen if you developed it later on? It's better to think of yourself first here, especially as your sister has been so awful to you for so long. Yes, do this. My understanding is, you can get tested for a match. They check privately if you're being pressured. If you say yes, they'll announce you aren't a match. Double check that's how it works, but do it that way. Former dialysis nurse here. Dialysis exists for this reason. She won't be leaving Emily without a mother, so you aren't sentencing her to death if you don't donate. Please don't donate. I've had a few patients end up on dialysis years after donating one of their kidneys, and it destroyed them and their relationship with the one with their kidney. Please don't donate to be the bigger person. It is a huge surgery with possible complications. Please don't put your life at risk. I wish someone would have told me how hard it would be on my body. I regret my donation every day. Not the a-hole. Do not donate your kidney to her. You may need it for yourself one day. She didn't want you in your life before she got sick and did you wrong. She'll probably cut contact with you again and say it's for the best after you donate it to her. Please don't donate the kidney. Not the a-hole. Do not donate by all means. Between a venomous snake and her sister, I trust a snake. Next story. Am I the a-hole for donating my deceased daughter's college fund to a charity instead of giving it to my estranged son? I, 48 male, lost my daughter, 21 female last year to a rare medical condition. She was in college, and we had saved up a substantial amount for studies. The fund is around $120,000 left. My wife passed away 5 years ago, so it's just been the two of us for a while. My son, 24 male, and I have had a strained relationship for the past 6 years. He got into drugs, joined a problematic crowd, and committed several felonies. When he turned 18, after multiple attempts to help him, I had to kick him out of the house. It was the hardest decision I've ever made. Recently, he's cleaned up his act, or so he says. He's been off drugs for a year, has a job, and wants to go to college. He reached out to me, asking if he could use his sister's college fund. However, my daughter in her last days expressed a desire for the money to go to a specific charity that supports research into her condition. It was her wish, and I decided to honor it and donated the entire fund to that charity 2 weeks ago. When I informed my son of this decision, he was livid. He claims that I've chosen a dead daughter over him, and that I never cared about him at all. My relatives are divided. Some say I did the right thing honoring my daughter's last wish, while others believe I should have given my son a second chance. I'm tormented. Am I the a-hole? Either choice could be easily defended in theory, but your son's reaction suggests he needs to mature a bit more before you give him large sums of money. If you have the cash to spare, offer to fund community college once he's calmed down. That boy definitely sounds like someone who should try out a community college first to see if he can handle it before large sums of money are spent. To be honest, I wouldn't give him the cash, but I'd pay the bill statements from the college he's going to. Do not give him cash at all. This is how I feel. There's so much we don't know about the entire situation. If the son really is trying to make changes, having college paid could be the saving grace that helps him turn his life around. I agree with only paying it straight to the university, and maybe having the son complete a semester on his own to show that he's taking classes seriously and can do well. What happened to the college fund you set up for your son? Like others have stated, probably went to helping him with his many felony charges. Lawyers aren't cheap. Not necessarily if it kicked the son out at 18. If the son did enough before 18 to deserve getting kicked out at 18, he likely burned through anything that would have gone into a college fund. I have a family member who had a lot of drug issues before he turned 18, and his grandfather and his mother spent a lot on his defense. Also called in a lot of personal favors to keep him out of jail. Lawyers don't reduce their rates simply because the defendant is under 18. Yep, I have a cousin who was the favorite grandchild. My grandparents bent over backwards, and she turned out just like her plastic, abusive, druggy, demented POS mother. Before 18, she totaled not only one, but two of my grandmother's $30,000 vehicles that she's told to go see a boy within months of each other. Grandparents hired her a very expensive lawyer who got her off all the charges. A $125,000 house was bought for her so she wouldn't have to stay in the dorms for college. She got druggy roommates, they got pets, didn't take care of them, trashed the house, failed out of college, was allowed to take over the family business. She then got the business in trouble with the Liquor Control Board, a lot of money and fine. Grandmother saw the books and just about had a heart attack. Stole our grandfather's pain meds when he was dying from cancer. She and her then boyfriend, now husband, stole tens and tens of thousands of dollars from my grandmother right after my grandfather died from a horrible battle with cancer. She then took out credit worth over $60,000 with business lenders. And oh my god, the books. That was a doozy. And the drugs they left around the place. Almost lost the business, and now after COVID, it's closed. She calls her toddler sons little bastards to their faces whenever they act out. It's on video. The father is even worse. CPS has been called multiple times, and they only made her take parenting classes. It's a joke. All this before she turned 23, and I only know like 10% of everything. So, I can see how the son could have blown through his college fund before he turned 18. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my husband to move away and told him divorce is fine with me? I, female 40, met my husband, male 51, 5 years ago. I love him very much. He has 2 children from a previous marriage, female 14 and male 13, and I have 1, female 13. His children never liked me because they always wanted their parents to move back together. When my husband met me, that dream was crushed, and it is very understandable. I gave them space and never tried to pressure them. When we got married, we moved into my home. They changed their mind when they realized I live in a big place with a pool, etc. We have been married 2 years. My daughter's father isn't in the picture, so my daughter lives 100% with me. I found out now that my stepdaughter has been bullying my daughter for the past couple of years, calling her fat, etc. I heard her make these comments. I told my husband to pack his children's bags because I never want to see them again. Because when I confronted my stepdaughter, she just laughed at me and called me and my daughter ugly and fat. And that my daughter deserved it. Turned out, my daughter has been bullied at school too, and the head of the bullying is my stepdaughter. My husband said that I couldn't kick out his children from their home, and that he would talk to his daughter. But he never did, so I told him that I understood that I can't demand that they stay with their mother since he has custody, so I told him that he should move out. We could meet on the weeks his children are with their mom, but that I'm done trying with his children. They will never love me or my daughter, and I'm choosing my daughter. He said I was being ridiculous, and that it wasn't marriage if he should live in a separate home from me when he has children. And I said if this didn't suit him, then I wouldn't mind divorce, because I'm not gonna have his daughter near mine again. I have no problems against my stepson, but my husband made it about him too because they're a whole package, which I totally understand. I can't demand that he doesn't see his daughter, so my suggestion is for him to move out and get his own place when he has his children. I spoke to my daughter about changing schools and she seems very positive to the idea. I still try to know more details about the bullying, but you know how embarrassing that is for children to admit. I never admitted to anybody that I was being bullied, even if my parents were very loving and supportive. Maybe I was even less inclined to confess to them because of how loving and supportive they were. Now for the top comments. Your daughter's mental health, happiness, and safety should always come first. You're doing the right thing, especially if he's doing nothing to stop his daughter from bullying yours. Take care of your daughter, Opie. If he's unable to defend himself against his abusive daughter, you should file for divorce. Opie has to defend her daughter. Nobody else will. I'm glad Opie is putting her daughter before her husband. Opie, your daughter will never forget you standing up for her. I assure you, it will mean a ton to her. Not the a-hole. You are doing right by your daughter. At this point, I would just opt for a divorce. It doesn't sound like he intends to do anything about his daughter. He may try and drag his feet to get his own place. May try and convince you that it won't happen again. I agree. Give him a strict timeline and stick to it. If he's too lazy a parent to do something about his daughter, he's too lazy to be in his marriage. You take care of yourself and your daughter. Period. If it was me, there wouldn't even be a timeline to set. If he wants to see his daughter, I'd understand. But it wouldn't be in my home or on my property. The stepdaughter would be leaving that minute, and he could come back for his things or not. But she would never get a chance to bully my kid again. You showed your daughter just how much you value her well-being and how unacceptable your stepdaughter's behavior was. Those are powerful lessons. Not the a-hole. Well done, you. Hopefully husband will move to a different school district, so the two girls are not going to the same school. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife her brother will never live with us? My 39 male and my wife, 37 female, have been married for 13 years. The entire time I have known her, her older brother Tom, 39 male, has never held a job or lived anywhere but with her parents. As far as I have been told, he has had a couple part-time jobs that didn't last long and lived for a few months in dorms when he tried college for one semester. My wife and I were visiting her grandmother in another state along with her mother, and a conversation of what happens to Tom when the parents are no longer able to support him came up. I mentioned he needs to be pushed to get a job and become independent long before they can no longer do it for him. And my wife's grandmother said she thought the idea was that Tom would just end up moving in with us when the time came. I looked at my wife, who didn't react at all to that news, as if she already knew that was the plan. But before anyone could say anything else, I said that is never going to happen. My wife told them we haven't really discussed it and the topic was changed. Later on, she said my response was uncalled for, and to flat out refuse makes me an a-hole. Am I? Or is my not wanting to support my 39-year-old bum of a brother-in-law valid? Not the a-hole. So she 100% is going to just let him move in and play the he's family card. I would start setting it up so you can leave when this happens. I was going to suggest that Opie have the conversation now and say, if you plan to have your brother move in with us, we should get a divorce now rather than later. But Opie's wife could lie and bide her time, so he should still have that conversation and also get his act together. My fiancé has a younger brother that cannot get his act together. Gets fired within a year of every job he gets if he doesn't rage quit. Has an outrageous car payment on a piece of crap that he doesn't maintain. Is constantly asking her for money which she doesn't give him. Blames everyone and everything else for his misfortunes. And is 1 or 2 speeding tickets away from either getting arrested or becoming uninsurable. I told her that when her parents aren't around anymore, we will absolutely not be filling in for them as a support system. Thankfully, she agreed and is just as annoyed with him as I am. They're family, so she's still cordial with him. But anytime he starts complaining about his latest issue, I throw out a few jabs if only to make him aware that not everyone is going to spare his feelings, especially when most of the time he is the architect of his own misery. We bought a house last year, and the first week we were in it, he was already asking if he could rent a room from us. Thankfully, we don't have the room to rent to him. But I still made sure he knew that even if we did, there was no way in hell I'd let him live in my house. Your fiancé's brother sounds like my sister-in-law. My wife and I were so happy when she moved 3 hours away and found a weirdo to marry. We were certain she would eventually need a place to live when she ran out of dead-end jobs. Yeah, I'm with you on this. I would never support any grown adult who doesn't work simply because he is lazy. If your wife feels the need to support him, then she needs to accept that he will never live with you and you will pay nothing to help him. She needs to understand now that she will be on her own for this. If she does want to support him, then I can see this ending in divorce. I know it would be for me. Opie needs to have an emotional conversation with his wife, explaining that their marriage is between the two of them, and that a third person wouldn't be healthy. It is important to be unemotional. Even if wife agrees, Opie needs to repeat annually. I think that ship has sailed, wrecked, and sank to the bottom of the ocean. At best, she'll just tell him whatever he wants to hear, then bide her time until brother has to move in, and it's a gotcha. I don't trust her and her family who have decided this behind his back. Probably since they got engaged over 13 years ago. They have no other plan. For them, it's been settled all these years. So they'll be coaching her to bring him to heel via gaslighting and manipulation. Not the a-hole. Still worth a conversation if only to eliminate the "we've never really talked about it" dodge. Get this thing fully on record. And ambiguously and equivocally, if it's here, I'm not. Make your choices accordingly.
Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's daughter that I am not her aunt or her other mom? I, 34 female, was with Liam, 35 male, for over a decade. Had 2 children with him, and we broke up when I learned he was cheating on me with Ella, 30 female. Ella was pregnant when I learned about their affair, and the two of them were very smug about the fact they were going to start a family with my kids, who were young enough at the time to potentially see Ella as a second mom in their lives. Ella was downright nasty, saying she could provide them so much better because her parents were wealthy and she'd be #1 mom in no time. We ended up getting shared custody of our children, and the schedule was week on/week off. X and I had to meet at a neutral location per our custody order to reduce conflict and any problems with the exchange of our children. The judge also ruled that Ella could not be present for exchanges given her alienating language toward me. That was not totally hidden from mine and Liam's children. My ex and Ella got a big shock when her family did not support them, following the realization that she helped him cheat and had gotten pregnant with someone who had a family. So they ended up struggling. Well, I was doing better than ever after making a career shift I'd wanted to do for a bit before that. They, of course, realized over time. This was, I think, just after they had their daughter and around the time they got married. Then the name I had heard from their daughter was suddenly changed to my name, and they started being super sycophantic with me and saying how my kids deserved one family unit and how their daughter was named after me, was my kid's little sister, how she needed someone to help support her and give her the life her siblings have, etc. I told them they were crazy, and I was not their daughter's anything. They had 2 more girls since then, and apparently they are telling those girls that I'm their aunt and or their other mom, hence the older of the 3 being named after me. The oldest is always trying to seek me out. My ex brings her during exchanges of our kids, and she rushes out of the car with my kids. My kids have told me how uncomfortable it makes them because they aren't allowed to correct it. I told my ex he needs to say something and said the same thing to Ella, but they didn't. A few days ago, their oldest sought me out again and asked if she could stay when my kids stay with me, and how she's so glad I'm her aunt and her other mom. I told her I wasn't. I said so kindly, but I was also firm that I was not her aunt or her mom in any way. She got upset and ran back to her parents, and then I got dumped on by Ella for breaking her daughter's heart. She said they had only tried to be nice and make the best of the family situation for the kids, and I was the a-hole. I feel kind of bad because the little girl was devastated. At the same time, I don't have any interest in being part of those 3 girls' lives in any kind of way, except for when I see them for my kids. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. She's calling you the a-hole after you broke her daughter's heart, but she did the same for helping a married man with 2 kids cheat with her. Karma did bite them in the butt. Definitely not the a-hole. Not really a-hole comparable, as Opie is just kindly telling the truth now after Ella has been making up lies. Ella's the a-hole to her own girls, just to try to weasel some money out of Opie, never mind all the stuff before. I feel really bad for the kids stuck in this demented situation. How awful to be lied to by your own parents as a way of manipulating others. Right? Like they want to basically force Opie into caring for their daughters financially. At least it seems like money is what they are trying to gain based on what Opie has written. It's messed up in such a major way. It's not Opie who will get hurt by their actions. It's their own daughters who will be hurt. And that isn't on anyone but them. It's not on Opie. It's not on the kids. It's on the ex and his wife. Nothing quite like people who think the only way to live is by guilting and shaming those around them in order to manipulate situations/people to get what they want. Wonder how long until the ex cheats on his current wife, and she will get to first-hand experience what they did to OP. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's not like someone who cheated and rubbed it in their ex's face is going to just never pull that crap again. It seems pretty likely he will cheat again. Then when that happens, his current wife will probably want to be all buddy-buddy with OP for support. Wow, not Dae-ho. She's playing the long game of manipulation and hoping you'll just get worn out and go along with it. I feel sorry for the kid. He's obviously been told a pack of lies. That must hurt a lot. But that's really got nothing to do with you. Your ex should be stepping up here too. He started this crazy situation. And it's his daughter. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter home in cheap clothes? I, 35 male, have a daughter Kiki, 7 female, with my ex-girlfriend Yvonne, 34 female, and have 50-50 shared custody. Every time Yvonne sends Kiki back home to me, she is in dingy old clothes. They are either too small and cut so she can fit them, stained, have holes, too big, not weather appropriate, long sleeves in the summer, etc. And her shoes are always filthy. I know Yvonne makes less money than me, which is why we have an agreed upon amount of money I send her monthly for Kiki's expenses. My wife, Sarah, 30 female, also came up with the idea that I just cover Kiki's childcare/education expenses, since it won't break the bank for us, and that way Yvonne can just use all the money I sent her for Kiki. We didn't want to send Kiki home in the clothes her mom sent her in, so we started sending her home in clothes we purchased, and she would always send her home with the outfit ruined. Sarah's mom bought Kiki some cute new shoes, and Kiki begged to wear them to her mom's. She was sent home in another ragged outfit, with the shoes completely ruined and muddy. Yvonne said they went to the park in them. Sarah was angry, so she went and bought a bunch of clothes from stores like Rainbow, H&M, Walmart, etc., and we sent those over there. So if they're ruined, it will not matter, and she can keep all her nice clothes here. Yvonne called us petty and said keeping tabs on clothes and shopping at cheap stores to send to mommy's house is offensive to Kiki and creating a toxic environment. I just don't want my daughter walking around looking a mess when she doesn't have to. It's embarrassing, and I know it doesn't make Kiki feel good. I feel like keeping all her quality stuff and favorite outfits here preserves them, so she has it. She doesn't know the difference between the clothes' quality and just sees the designs. But guys, am I really being selfish and petty? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Yvonne, I think, purposely sees to it that the new clothes you send Kiki in are ruined. Now she's mad because you are sending Kiki to her in clothes where it won't matter if they are ruined or not. She's the a-hole. This is why Sarah was so angry about the shoes. She felt it was intentional, but honestly, I don't think that's far-fetched. Yvonne is being petty boots. She is big mad and wants to force you to keep spending money on clothes. She's legitimately trying to punish you for moving on and having a life without her. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. Even when my boys were small and we went to the park or played in the rain, their clothes were still salvageable after a good wash. Here's what's happening. Kiki, Mommy, do you like my new outfit? Me and Daddy and Sarah went shopping and Sarah picked it. Yvonne, yes, sweetie, it's super cute. Do you want to go to the cemetery and dig graves with me? You can roll around in the dirt. We can find some water and make some mud, and you can dance in the mud. When we are done with that, let's go play CSI and cover ourselves in red paint to make a crime scene. This is why Kiki is coming home filthy. Keep her nice clothes at your house and send her to Yvonne's house in Couture from Target. Start keeping a photographic record of your kid when she arrives. If you're giving money for her needs, there's no reason for her to be ragged and dirty all the time. There may be misuse of the money you send, as well as neglect involved. Keep your daughter safe, man. Thank you. I have been keeping pictures and we brought this up before in court. I'm hoping we don't have to go back, but gotta do what you gotta do. Does your ex have proper laundry facilities available to her? Is it possible that she does not have access to laundry in home or the money to go to a laundromat? She has a laundromat in her building, I believe. My daughter has mentioned putting quarters in the machine at mommy's house, but if that was the case, then I feel like she would have brought that up in one of our many discussions about this. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling a parent that if they want their kid included in everything, they need to be taught better manners? I have an 8-year-old son and he has a group of friends he's known since his preschool days. There's 4 of them total. This post is about one of the boys, EJ. EJ has always been a sweet enough kid, but something that always bothered us but got worse is he would want more food than he could handle, but also wouldn't take well being asked to wait and see how he does with a smaller portion first. Examples. I took my son and his friends to see a movie and it was a little later in the day, so we went to McDonald's after, which isn't uncommon. And while there, he wanted burger, fries, nuggets, ice cream, and another dessert. I asked him to pick the 2 food stuff he wanted most, and we would get him more if he was still hungry, and desserts would come after regardless. He was like, "No way. I always eat more than that." I didn't want to come down on a kid who wasn't mine, so I was like, okay. He ate less than half the food overall. Another time my husband was home with the kids, he ordered food to our house. EJ wanted a medium pizza and a chicken bite box, which is a lot of food. But my husband kinda shrugged and bought it for him. One of the other kids asked if he could eat some since EJ wasn't eating much, and EJ said no. And by the time he left, it was gone so cold, and again there was about half of it just left there, with the bites taken out of some stuff and left there. Last example is the time I had EJ after school one Friday, because his parents needed to go someplace. We went grocery shopping and I had mentioned we had food at home. EJ begged and pleaded for burgers. And against my better judgment, I did take him, and this time I was firmer with not ordering too much. And I had raised this issue with his parents before. He got so mad because he couldn't order the 3 deluxe burgers and fries. Like he was saying yes, telling me he was allowed to eat like that. I brought up him not being able to finish, and he said he can. He sulked the whole time, and then his parents were mad that I didn't feed their kid enough. So, I no longer allow him to come if the thing is going to end in us getting food, because it's money we are throwing away. The other parents in the friend group have had the exact same problem. EJ's parents realized EJ was included less and brought it up to me. I explained the issue. They said I was being an a-hole to a kid. I told them if they want their kid included in everything, then they need to teach him manners around spending other people's money. Or they could send money with him. And if they want to waste it, that's fine by me. But I pointed out that it's expensive to throw away huge amounts of food. It's not something they were never made aware of, but I know it probably is hard on EJ if he knows about it, even if he is included to a degree still. I don't know. This has just brought more bad blood, and I don't feel the best about it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and you're absolutely right. His parents should be sending him with money for these outings. Never in my life as a child was I sent with someone else's parent and not sent with money to pay for food or activities. And if the other parent had offered to pay for me, I was certain to only order what I knew I could eat. And I definitely had manners because my parents did not play that game. Bottom line, if they want their child included, they should teach him how to act and order accordingly. We take my nephew/nieces out sometimes, and I wish there was a menu that didn't list prices every time. They're so polite that they look at the cheapest options versus what they'd really like to eat. I'm wise to that now and convince them to enjoy the treat. I'm lucky. It sounds like EJ might have an issue like food insecurity at home. Over-ordering food and hoarding, the refusal to share, can be signs of something like that. I would try to be more understanding of him. Maybe order in advance or make mobile orders so that you are just picking up food for the group of kiddos and reassure EJ that if he is still hungry, he can have more. He does not like that at all. We get sulking at a lot if he's allowed to eat like whatever at home. Reassuring him does not make it any better. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not moving my family to help my sister-in-law and parents? Plus update. I, 37 male Canadian, a few months back I lost my twin brother to a drunk driver. He was the older twin, and despite the fact we looked the same, we were very different. He could do no wrong in our parents' eyes even when he was drinking/using substances and stealing. I, however, could do nothing correctly and was even blamed for everything bad he did. He stole money from a church, and it was my fault because I didn't support him enough type deal. I honestly had a very long post typed out that went into more details, but I'm just going to go with the TLDR version. Because of my parents always placing the blame on me for what my brother did, I joined the army and moved away at 19. I was 31 before anyone in my family ever returned any of my Facebook messages or text messages. I didn't send many, but I did make the first step, normally before I deployed. We finally put our past behind us and reconnected. I met his wife and 4 kids. They're awesome. We talked about getting our parents to move in with me as at the time I was single and had a room for them and could easily support them financially. My dad lost his job, their health was declining, and our old family house was falling apart. They didn't want to move and came up with BS reason not to all the time. I am now married with 2 kids and have a nice house in Manitoba with a fair amount of land. With my brother's passing, his wife has no family to look to for support, and my parents only have me left. I have offered to cover the expenses and move them all out to Manitoba. My parents can stay in my camper. It's a very nice camper, 44 feet, better than most apartments. My sister-in-law and the kids can stay in our basement that is fully furnished and has the space till they can get their own place. She's a nurse like my wife, and my wife can get her some work. But nope, they want me to sell everything and move out to them. They live in the Ottawa area. My sister-in-law has limited space with just them in their house, and my old family home doesn't even currently have a working furnace and looks like a crack house. They want me to use the money from selling my house to fix up the old family house, and everyone will move into that. I told my parents and sister-in-law I will not be selling my house and everything else to move to Ottawa area. The cost of living is close to 4 times higher there than where I am. I have the means to support everyone where I am, till everyone is settled into the new area. I do not have the same means to do so there. It's been a week now and no one returning any means of communication with me. Wow, that's some choosing beggar stuff here. Definitely not the a-hole for refusing to sell your home to move to a new province with a significantly higher cost of living. You're the a-hole to yourself, though, for continuing to allow your toxic family to take advantage of you like this. I totally get it, though. Family and all, and a desire for them to care about you the way you should be. But don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Precisely. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Your parents have been awful to you from the start. Apparently, your sister-in-law jumped on the bandwagon. I know it hurts, but you have to accept that they don't want the best for you and let them go. OP, I'm very sorry. Your parents have shown by word and deed that they do not care about you. This was true before your brother died. It is true now. If your parents move out to Manitoba and live in your property, they would quickly make your life miserable. If you moved to Ontario, the process would be even faster. Your sister-in-law can get a job as a nurse anywhere. There is a massive shortage all across Canada thanks to COVID-19. Echoing the above to say, don't set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Not the a-hole, obviously. Now for the little update. Wanted to take a second and say thank you to everyone. This has helped a lot. There are some really good point of views in here I hadn't considered at the time of writing this. I do want to help them because they are family, but I'm not willing to risk hurting my family for people I would honestly consider extended family. That may sound bad, but my wife and kids have given me more support than my own parents. So wife and kids come first. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter celebrate me for Mother's Day? I'm male 45. I'm a single dad to my daughter, 15 female. When my daughter was only a month old, her mother decided she didn't want to be a mom anymore and left. So it's just been my daughter and I ever since. My daughter grew up with friends/other girls whose mom did everything girly or motherly with them. But for my daughter, I was the one who was helping her get ready for dance competitions, taking her to concerts like Taylor Swift and Harry Styles, going shopping for clothes, and so much more. So with mostly her friends, she gave me the title Dad Mom jokingly because I act in both roles in my daughter's life. Of course, yesterday was Mother's Day. My daughter made a post with 2 pictures, a picture of her with my mom and sister, as well as a picture of just her and me. She just thanked her grandma and aunt for being motherly influences for her. And then she did a special shout out to me for being her dad mom and doing everything for her in both dad and mom roles. Well, we later went to dinner with my parents and my sister and her family. My sister asked my daughter why she mentioned me in her Mother's Day post. My daughter said, "Well, Dad's a single parent who acts as both a dad and a mom. I only have 1 parent, not 2. My sister said, "Well, that's what Father's Day is for." She then turned to me and called me an a-hole, because Mother's Day is 1 day out of the year, so I shouldn't encourage my daughter to celebrate her dad on Mother's Day. My mom didn't feel like anything is wrong with it, but I feel like an a-hole. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's funny that when women post themselves on Father's Day because they're mom and dad, no one bats an eye. Shout out to you for being everything your daughter needs. It's hard enough being a girl. For you to try and understand or feed her interests says a lot about the stand-up man you are. Yep, that's what I was going to say. My siblings and I have spent the last 5 years celebrating my mom as a father on Father's Day. and nobody ever thinks it's taking away from fathers. If you are both parents, then you should be celebrated as both. I bet that makes her feel really special and loved, and she deserves to feel that way for all the hard work she does. I think it's awesome for kids to celebrate their single parents like this. Not a-hole. This isn't a good look for your sister. It comes across as her being jealous that you were mentioned, her feeling like she isn't enough of a motherly influence since your daughter mentioned you too. In the grand scheme of things, she's a hypocrite, and lucky she got to mention herself since she's not technically your daughter's mother either. I know my daughter sees her grandma and aunt as motherly influence in her life. She can go to them if she needs any advice that she doesn't feel comfortable sharing with me. And that's great. Nothing wrong with it at all. But the fact that your sister is saying you shouldn't be mentioned when celebrating Mother's Day when you're not her mother is hypocritical because your sister isn't her mother either. Your daughter isn't an a-hole. You're not an a-hole, but your sister sure is. Not the a-hole. Your daughter can celebrate her dad, mom. Love it. On any damn day she wants. And it's no one's business but yours. You sound like an awesome parent. Good job. I find it ironic that according to your sister, it's okay for her to be included as an aunt, but not you as a dad. Talk about rules for thee, not for me. Thank you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brain-damaged uncle that I don't care what other people put up with and that in my house I can be polite or leave? My uncle 53 is a complete a-hole. He is vulgar and rude, and he positively delights in being as offensive as possible. My grandmother says it's from a brain injury when he was young. I have never seen proof of this, but my dad 50 male has put up with us his whole life. When I ask him about it, he just says that is the way his brother is and always has been. My mom basically banned him from our house when I was growing up, so I only saw him at family events. At weddings where he would say the groom looked gay or that the bride looked pregnant. Thanksgiving where he would tell offensive jokes at a table, or a birthday party where he said the food tasted like crap. Now, I, male 27, recently bought a house with my girlfriend 23. It is small and needs work, but we can afford it with a lot of help from our families and the bank. We had a housewarming this weekend and had a barbecue. It was the first time we could host a big group, as I only had a bachelor apartment and my girlfriend lived with her dad. My dad invited my uncle. I did not. My uncle shows up and starts being himself. He starts calling my home a crap hole and asks my girlfriend why she's with a loser like me. I ask him to come out in the front yard to talk for a second, and I read him the riot act. That I do not care that other people have coddled him his whole life, and if he cannot be civil, then he is welcome to GTFO. I was not quiet, so I'm pretty sure everyone in my backyard could hear me telling him to behave like a freaking civilized adult. He left, but spent the rest of the day texting everyone there, including his mom, my grandmother, and saying that is not his fault, that I overreacted to his behavior. It put a damper on the party. His family are kind of on his side, but my mom's family and my friends are backing me. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. It's your home, and he disrespected you in it. Also, your dad was out of line for inviting your uncle without consulting you first. If you can't respect your host, then you should leave. Plain and simple. Yeah, especially when his own wife banned a brother from their home. And the presumption of Opie's father to invite a nasty uncle to a house, that's not his. I've seen so many stories of people enabling bullies, but attack people when they stick up for themselves. Not the a-hole, Opie. You need to tell your dad that he won't be welcome in your house if he brings the a-hole uncle. In fact, that goes for all your family. That nasty uncle is never to set foot in your place. Who cares if your family complains? Let them deal with the a-hole uncle, and you could live free of his vitriol. I bet Dad thought that by inviting the uncle to Opie's house, he could circumvent his wife and host and spend more time with his brother again by having all the family events at Opie's house. Like, sorry wife, I can't control who Opie allows to come. If you want to see your son, you'll put up with uncle. Not the a-hole. I don't know if your uncle is the a-hole, but your dad is definitely the a-hole for inviting him without telling you. Also, your dad's family for expecting you to put up with him in your home. He's their responsibility, not yours. You really don't know if uncle is an a-hole? At least the narrative of the family is that he doesn't know better, but the father does. The uncle is an a-hole, but for the purposes of this sub, may not be one. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she's not allowed to meet our kids anymore? My husband and I have 2 5 female and 8 male children. After a very traumatic birth with my elder one, I decided that I'm not ready to go through that again. But we still wanted more children, so 5 years ago we adopted. My mother-in-law cares for our family, but she makes her preference for Malcolm more than clear. To begin with, she was absolutely furious hearing that I would not be having another biological child and was instantly disapproving. After hearing we were going to adopt a child, her anger turned into rage. She screamed about how we didn't know the parentage of the child and might end up bringing in someone who would disgrace her lineage. My husband was able to calm her down, and thankfully when we saw little Julia, it seemed like this was all behind us. Then yesterday, my mother-in-law decided to visit us. My husband was away on a trip, so she was just helping around. I was absolutely exhausted, so I asked if I could go down for a nap, and she was more than agreeing. After a few hours, she woke me up and informed me that she was about to leave. All was good. I was cooking in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear a loud bang, preceded with a crying Julia. When I rush into the hall, I see Malcolm towering over her. "You're not real. All of this is mine," he started screaming, which was incredibly confusing to say the least. After calming them down, I asked Malcolm what he meant. He then revealed that Grandma Muriel had told him that he was Mommy and Daddy's real son. This made me incredibly mad. I asked him what else Grandma has told him, and he told me all about how she had been telling him that Julia wasn't really his sister, and how he should get extra attention for being extra special. How was always going to be Grandma's favorite grandson, and so much more. Blinded with rage, I blocked Muriel and everything after sending her a text detailing her actions, and how this was absolutely unacceptable, and how she'd never be seeing her grandkids until they're much older and understand the situation, so they wouldn't be swayed by her words. I probably overreacted, to be fair, as she is quite an old lady. After my husband returned, we got into quite the argument. To say the least, my husband disagreed. He adores his mother and told me that stopping her from seeing the kids is inhumane, that she's simply old-fashioned, and she didn't know her words would bring this big of an impact or some such. We will be having a civil discussion about this later. Edit? I'm sorry I didn't clarify this earlier, but both Julia and Malcolm know that she is adopted. I've had a conversation with both the children, although I have had it separately with the both of them. I think I might have to have this conversation once again and make sure Julia knows that it doesn't matter whether she's adopted or not. Now for the comments. I need you to understand this. Your husband is saying he will let his mother mistreat your daughter. You have a serious problem in your family, and you need to get into counseling to fix it immediately before he ruins this young girl's life. And you need to prepare for the fact that your husband may never really love or protect his adopted daughter, and you will have to be the one to protect her from both of them, not the a-hole. Exactly. I said in my own comment that he has no business being a parent if he can't keep his mother away from his daughter. I also suggested therapy. Parents through adoption have to be ready to protect their kids, first and foremost. My God, I was horrified when I read that the husband disagreed with her decision because he adores his mom. Hope he should have their son tell his dad exactly what Grandmommy Dearest said, and then ask, "So you're okay with your mom saying these things about your daughter? Is that what you were telling me? That our daughter deserves to be told she isn't as worthy of our love because she's not our biological child? Are you telling me that you love your mom more than Julia? Because that's the only takeaway from you wanting your mother around after the horrible things she said. And if he still wants mom around, divorce him. The end. Your child's welfare is more important than saving a marriage with a man who will allow his mom to mistreat his child. You can either support me in my decision to hold your mother accountable for her actions, or I will file for divorce. This is a hard deal breaker for me. What your mother did was unforgivable in my eyes, and I will not allow our children to be raised to think they aren't really brother and sister because your ignorant mother thinks our adopted child is less than our biological child. So you need to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else, because I can't even look at you right now. I am beyond disappointed that you don't see anything wrong with what your mother said and did, or the fact that your son attacked your daughter because of it. Pull your head out of your butt, or I will do what I have to do to protect our children, even if that means ending this marriage. Not the a-hole. I think this might just be where this goes. If my husband doesn't agree to cut her off of our kids, I'm done. Their mental health, happiness, and relationship with each other is more important than a husband who won't see that he's actively hurting by neglecting his own daughter. More so, also ruining her perception in front of his son. Thank you so much for the comment. Last story. Would I be the a-hole asking our friend to return a baby shower gift after a miscarriage? I know this sounds awful and I feel like it might be a terrible thing to do, so I need some advice. My husband has a long-term family friend named Jen. Jen and I aren't friends at all, but we are friendly when we see each other. When Jen had her first kid, my husband purchased a fairly expensive item off of her baby shower registry as a gift. Around $200 to $300 if I recall correctly. I had no issue with the gift or how much he spent. It was a nice item to gift her, and we were excited for her to grow her family with her then boyfriend, now husband. Fast forward a few years, Jen and her husband are high earners, both making over 6 figures. Jen announced she was pregnant again very early along and sent my husband her baby shower registry with her announcement text, which was full of high-priced items. Personally, I thought this was strange because she should still have most of the items from her first kid and didn't think people usually did full-blown baby showers or registries after their first. I was also surprised she was asking for gifts when she was still in the first trimester, but I'm a cautious person who didn't announce my pregnancy until 20 weeks, which I know is extreme on the other side. I left it up to my husband what he wanted to do, but mentioned to him that I was surprised she was organizing another shower or gifting event, since she already has a young kid and got brand new stuff then. My husband spent around $400 on a gift for her, which is fine with me. But a few weeks later, Jen had a traumatic miscarriage. I won't get into the details, but she was devastated, and the cost of the loss likely means she won't be able to carry future pregnancies to term. It's incredibly sad, and while I'm not close with Jen, my heart hurt for her. It's been a few months since her loss, and my husband is now unsure of how to navigate the gift. It's not something she can use for her older kid, but asking her to return the gift seems cruel, like adding a chore onto her grief, and it's probably past the return window anyway. I'm also not sure if she's going to keep trying to have more kids, which is now very risky for the baby and herself, and it seems incredibly sensitive to ask. Plus, she may not have decided yet. Asking her to pay us back for it also seems very cruel. My husband and I are also decently high earners, but $400 is still a lot of money. It's one thing if she's able to get a few years of use out of the item, so that's money well spent. But if it's going to sit in a box in her attic for years, that's where we are getting stuck. So would we be the a-hole if we ask about getting the gift back? Ideally, we could get our money back somehow, although it's probably too late. If we can't, then I'd at least like to gift it to someone else who can use it. I feel awful just saying that, but it's how I feel. However, this is such a sensitive subject and we don't want to pressure her if she's not ready to discuss it. You're the a-hole. It was a gift. It shouldn't come with terms and conditions. You gave it away. It's gone. Exactly. It doesn't matter what Jen does with any present after she receives it. It was a gift to her and is hers now. Hope you let it go. Jen could very well decide to gift or donate it herself. Better to just treat it like a regular gift and not think about it as a waste. You're the a-hole. You chose to spend much money. You absolutely didn't have to. There's no tactful way to ask for it back. It will look petty and greedy, so they'll either try to return everything if they want to or donate it. But once the gift's given, you should let it go. Update. I appreciate the feedback I've gotten. We will not be asking Jen about the gift. We don't want to make her feel worse than she already is. Given her statements in the past regarding adoption, I doubt she will find alternative ways to have another child if she isn't able to do so biologically. But that's her path to walk. If she doesn't use it, I hope she at least donates the item to someone who needs it. People have also commented on my tone, and I just wanted to clarify that Jen is truly only my husband's friend, not mine. We aren't couples friends with her and her husband. Jen and my husband were close as kids, but haven't been close for years, before I ever came into the picture. Sort of like a cousin he grew up with, but only talk to at major holidays now. I don't hate Jen, but we have very different worldviews, so we likely won't ever be close. I'm sympathetic to Jen's loss as a person, and as a person who has also experienced miscarriages. But I am not personally devastated by it, if that makes sense. If my husband wrote the post, the tone would have been different. Given how long they've known each other and how she's so integrated into their family, he felt it was appropriate to gift her a big-ticket item, which I thought was justified. I do wish he had waited to send it, because I warned him that it was very early in her pregnancy and anything could happen.